Hey everyone, good morning. It is day 141 of spiritual healthcare. So welcome everyone. It's good to see you guys. And here we are again for another Wednesday. Go figure, hey? It's good to be here. It's been an interesting last week with a lot of projects, lots of stuff coming up, which is pretty cool. So good morning everyone. Good morning everybody. It's nice to see you all. It's been a really busy week. And I hope you guys have had a good week as well. We got some really great questions this morning from Dan, from a couple of other people. They're just really awesome questions that I can't wait to get into about both negative entity cases as well as the role of humor in the paranormal and like all sorts of things. And some announcements too. Some really good announcements. So this is good. So it's good to see everyone. I hope you guys had a really good weekend. It's been crazy busy here because I've been pushing and launching the new website that's going to be coming out, or that is out now, is now online. And it was sort of this great big push to get this thing rolling because it was a massive site. And of course I haven't updated the site since we started doing this. So I had 141 spiritual healthcare videos as well as all of the videos from my live shows and all of that to move over to the new website. So it was a beast of a project, but it's done and it's online. So if you guys get a chance to go over to the new entityseeker.ca, it's pretty cool. There's gonna be lots of resources. It's being geared a little bit more towards the new shows, production, and everything I think that's going to be coming out in the next year, because of course we're seeing so many of the live events and live shows and things like that canceled, and definitely slowly moving Entity Seeker into the production realm of things, so that we still have access to everybody, can still do classes, can still do shows and all that kind of stuff. So it's been a move. it's been a move, and it's still in progress, but that's how this works. You're always rolling, especially when you're dealing with artists and stuff like that. You're always kind of, if you don't evolve as an artist or anything like that, then I mean your career is basically over. So there is that. So good morning to everybody that's joining us. Good morning, everybody. It's good to see you all. The one thing I wanted to bring up this morning is, of course, the crazy shooting that happened in Boulder, Colorado, just in the last couple of days here. It sort of impacted the paranormal community because my co-host and my good friend Richard Estep was on scene, because he's an EMT in real life, apart from television life. In real life, he's an EMT, and he was on scene treating people. So lots of love and everything to Richard for dealing with that, because it's a lot, and we've got a lot going on in the world right now, and then to add on that kind of a thing is really tough. So thank goodness for people like him, and for the people that respond to this stuff, because that's crazy. So I wanted to let you guys all know about that. It was on the news, and he was on the news, and it was a whole thing. So today, to start us off a little bit lighter, I thought that one of the questions that I keep getting in, that keep coming in like over and over again, is about comedy in the paranormal and laughter. And I thought I've seen this question like come up, I don't know, 3 or 4 times in my inbox, and I thought what a great way to start today is with something like that. And so I thought we'd begin with that. Good morning to Ed and Dan and Savannah, and Samantha Shaw is there as well. And she's wondering if we do readings here. No, we don't. This is like more of a class type thing. But I think if you're interested in that side of it, I would highly recommend seeking out the Forever Family Foundation. The Forever Family Foundation are actually scientifically tested mediums who work for or volunteer, I guess, for a incredible investigator by the name of Lloyd Auerbach, and he's incredible, and he doesn't work with crazy people. They're not going to break your bank and rob your money and that kind of thing. So I would highly recommend the Forever Family Foundation for anything like that. So I wanted to grab onto this because I thought this was really, really interesting, and that so many people end up in investigations, sitting around doing EVP, all of that. Oh, good morning, Kaz. Sitting around doing EVPs, and this is something that I experienced too back when I was doing investigations a lot more consistently. And Steph and I took note of this, is that whenever we're doing EVP, so many people, and we see this on the TV shows all the time, you're sitting around and you're in the dark, and they're all, they've all got their equipment, and the dark thing always kind of blew my mind because there's really no need to do it in the middle of the night. It's purely a television thing, which is always funny to me. You always go, for investigation, you always go when the activity is reported, right? So if the activity is reported in the afternoon, you go in the afternoon. You don't go in the middle of the night. So anyway, that aside. But we would notice that, people would be sitting around and being very stoic about asking questions, about, trying to get answers from the spirits in the building, or channeling something, but everybody's very stoic and very, very rigid and solemn. And I always thought it was kind of funny because the interactions that happen usually during things like EVP sessions or seances or anything like that, usually these interactions happen when you're having fun. That's usually when it happens, statistically. And so many people forget that. They forget that this stuff is supposed to be fun. Good morning to Marge, and good morning to Sally. Hey, guys. And so it's really funny to me because you see all these investigators and sitting around, and they've got their recorders out, and they're waiting, and they're being very, very solemn about it. But truly, that's really what ends up happening, is that the more joyful you are in the asking of the questions, usually the more activity starts to show up. And Stephanie and I, we really began to notice this right off the bat in some of our first investigations into places like the Firkins house at Fort Edmonton Park, the Guilty Martini that used to be here in Edmonton. There's been loads of these locations that we've done over the years. And we started out in the same thing. We thought, it's got to be super dark, and it's got to, we got to sit there and be really serious and whatever. And we realized that it just wasn't working. It wasn't working. When we were getting the best EVPs was when we were actually having a laugh over something going on. So it was really interesting. So I wanted to tell you guys a story anyway about this concept. And I have something to show you as well. So this was quite a number of years ago. Probably was about 10 years ago or so. We were doing workshops at a place called Alex Taylor's School, which is here in Edmonton. Great big old school from the 1900s, and it's like 3 or 4 stories tall. It's got a division in the middle, so there's like the boys' side and the girls' side, which is so funny. And so this huge school, and the janitors and stuff were very frightened of the activity going on, because they were from a culture where anything paranormal was considered evil. It had to be evil spirits and whatever, which wasn't true. So anyway, when we got there, we actually did a show there with Jackie Greenlee or Jackie Sweeney, now she's married, from Shaw TV, called Haunted Edmonton. And poor Jackie was always like absolutely terrified of anything paranormal. And so anyway, we ended up in this school, and we were doing this EVP session. And what was so funny was that we ended up sort of being guided into this back storage room, and from noises, just these random knocks and noises and bangs and all these things going on. We're like, what is going on? We'd see the movement of objects, and we'd kind of follow it. We followed this, and we wanted to know who it was. We wanted to know, more about this intelligence, because the activity was really cool. And we ended up being basically guided into this back corner of where there was a bunch of boards and stuff like that were all propped up against the corner of this wall. And lo and behold, as Matt, my dear friend Matt, he starts to pull apart some of the stuff behind this pile of boards leaning up against the wall. And lo and behold, we get led to this. And it was, I mean, obviously done by a kid at some point, right? At the school. But talk about humor. And it's even spelled wrong. That's okay. But anyway, it made us crack right up, because as we were kind of like being brought along and being led along by the non-physical energy that was there, we end up basically getting a little message, and we just cracked right up. And this kind of stuff will happen in investigations all the time, as long as you're willing to have fun with it. Where we ended up on the front page of the newspaper for that. It was really funny, and we cracked right up, and I kept it. Like, that's the original one, because it made me laugh, and it reminded me again that this stuff is supposed to be fun, and they're having fun with it too. They're enjoying it, and they're having fun with it. So anyway, I had to share that story with you guys, because it was just an absolute riot, and Alex Taylor's school was a blast. The spirits there were lovely and lots of fun. So I had to add that all in. If you guys want more info on like humor and laughter and stuff like that in the paranormal, probably the best case to look up, and we've talked about it on Spiritual Healthcare before, is the Philip experiment from Ontario. That is probably one of the best demonstrations of the fact that laughter and joy and humor is actually the fuel for paranormal activity. It's really cool. It's really, really cool. I always like to compare it to, if those of you guys who have seen Monsters Inc., Monsters Incorporated from Disney, when all the monsters for years and years and years thought that the best fuel was screams to power their city, for those who haven't seen it. And they had a whole factory that was basically built to scare the crap out of kids, to make them scream so they can get power to power their city. And they find out at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, that it's not. It's laughter, right? It's laughter that actually powers what's going on, and that's kind of like the paranormal too. It's pretty cool. So anyway, after that topic, I wanted to touch on this one as well. Dan sent this in the other night, and I wanted to really, really address it, because I think he's making a really good point here about cases that involve negative entities, that involve like physical aggression, physical attacks, and things like that, because it's a thing. As much as scary as it is, as terrifying as it is, it's a thing. This is a thing that happens. So I'm going to read Dan's questions so you guys can get a beat on this, and then we can talk about it. There seems to be a misconception out there on how to properly handle certain situations. Given a case where there is a claim of paranormal activity where involved parties have scratches, bruises, etc., it seems most people don't know what to do. It's imperative that in these cases psychological evaluations are needed. Here in the U.S., just bringing someone to the emergency room of a hospital voicing concerns is often a great starting point. The world is obviously struggling right now, and I've never seen so many folks in such emotional pain at any given time. It seems that it isn't time to film it or contact a priest. Yeah, so this is a great question. Good morning to Christy. Hey, Christy. Good morning to everybody who just logged in that I haven't said hi to. I know Des just logged in, and everybody so hi everyone. I have my comments back on my screen, which is nice, because the last time I didn't have any comments. It was weird. Facebook was messing up. So I think this is such a great question, and I wanted to run through, I think, some of the biggest mistakes that I see as a researcher looking at people trying to deal with negative hauntings that are resulting in harm, and whether it be to a person, physical space, all of that. And I mean, there's a million ways to deal with stuff like this. Obviously, as we've talked about before, that ultimately what the goal is to get the person to heal whatever they've got going on so that they're receiving better in their environment, right? For those of you guys who don't know Teaching the Living, the basic idea is that when you're dealing with negativity in your experience, whether it be unhealed stuff or anything that is, causing you to hang out in negative emotion, you're going to get that back when it comes to paranormal activity. And in order to change that, you've got to move yourself up the emotional scale to get yourself to a better place so that you're receiving different. So ultimately, that's the goal. On my website, I always have the quote, as an investigator, we have to be the compass, not the solution. And I firmly believe that it's absolutely true. So some of the biggest mistakes that I've seen, I kind of wrote them down point form. I think one of the first ones that I see is forcing people out of their connection to apply your solution, what you think is the solution. So this is something I see all the time, specifically with religion. Some people get very hung up on the fact that if it's not this religion, then that religion is wrong. And if you don't convert to something else, then you're just wrong, and that's wrong, and everything's wrong. And you can get happy no matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter. Okay. It don't matter. We're talking about emotions. We're talking about how you're viewing the world. I mean, if you're in a situation where your beliefs or your religion are making you feel terrible, or they're, shaming you, or they're, all of that kind of thing, that's not good. You don't want that. But forcing someone out of their connection into something else, to get them to try to solve a situation it's not gonna work. I dealt with this a lot when I was still teaching in the social work programs and the psychology programs, because the social workers that I was teaching, and they were learning the Teaching the Living program, it was a staple in a number of colleges here in Edmonton. When they were learning the program, many of them came with very heavy belief systems, like very, very strong belief systems. And they kind of had this attitude of, in order to fix you, you have to be like me. In order to get you happy, you have to be happy like me. And it's just not ever going to work. Everybody is different. Some people, love to go paint. Some people love to go ride horses. Some people, are allergic to horses and they have to go do something else. Like there's just a million different things. And so if you're trying to jam somebody into that box, it's going to enhance the disconnection that you've already got going in the situation. The person's already frightened. The person's already got a crazy amount of crap going on with this whatever haunting they have. And then you're going to try to force them into this other box. It's not going to work. So that's probably one of the big things. The other one that I notice very, very frequently with this stuff is the investigators going into a house and basically screaming demon. Okay, that's what I call screaming demon. And the reason why I call it this is because oftentimes that's basically what you end up seeing. You see it on a lot of the ghost hunting shows and stuff like this, where they're running around the house like freaking out. Something happens, a door slams, or they see somebody get scratched or cut, or something happens where they get pushed, and they lose their minds, and they're freaking out, saying that there's a demon in the house and all this craziness, all this wahala, and it's never a good thing. When we're dealing with clients, if it's a negative situation, that are already traumatized, right? You're dealing with people who are on the edge of sometimes mental breakdowns. Sometimes they're on the verge of a divorce because a partner doesn't believe them, or the tension has just broken up the relationship. They've been in situations where they're house poor because they've moved 10 times. The situations are really rough when it comes to negative entities, and turning around and bringing somebody who they see as a source of help in, that is losing their minds and falling into the same emotional pit, it is one of the worst things that you can possibly do. I've been in situations before where, we've had stuff happening right in front of us, and you got to have a damn poker face. You can't be reacting to it. You have to be able to keep your emotional center. And, you never turn around and tell the client, oh my God, there's a demon in your house. Just the word drives me nuts anyway, because I think that's a very I guess outlandish word for what negative entities encompass. But this seems to be a very popular word on the TV shows, and I think as soon as you are in that emotional rut with these individuals, you're not helping them. You can't pull somebody out of a hole if you're in the hole, right? You have to be up in your emotional center so that you can turn around and deal with the situation and not be losing your mind, because it sets the clients right off. So that's one of the big ones. The next one I think is the one that Dan touched on, which I think is, again, super, super important with these extreme cases, which is these people that are not considering that it is not paranormal. And this is such a huge one, because I think so often you'll get investigators or individuals that they want to see a certain thing. They're kind of hoping that they're going to see a certain outcome. And ultimately, what you've got is somebody who might have mental illness, delusions, whatever you've got going on, or the environment is perpetuating a belief system or a hallucination or something like that. I'll give you guys an example. So this was, again, probably about 10 years ago or so. I dealt with this one case in Sherwood Park, and it was this really, really sweet woman who had lost her son. She'd lost her son, and who had been older, and she was firmly of the belief that her place was haunted. So when we went in to take a look at what was going on, she was like really frightened. She didn't know what it was. It would have been very, very easy for us to turn around and say, oh my God, yeah, it's haunted. Look at your history. Look at what's going on. There was a lot of, like, she was hallucinating. She was seeing these like black shadows out of the corner of her eye. She was seeing, she felt watched. She had, it was a plethora of things that were going on in this house. And one of the main sources of this was her basement, which was a finished basement. It was very nice. But she was convinced that whatever was going on was in the basement, and she was having phone problems. She couldn't call out on her phone for assistance. There was all sorts of stuff going on. And it would have been really, really easy for us to turn around and point to it and say, look, this is obviously paranormal. It's attached to the fact that you've lost your son, yada, yada, yada. You can see how the story would grow from that. Long story short, what actually was creating this problem was a myriad of issues. So the first issue was the fact that she was on multiple medications, like multiple heavy-hitting antipsychotic medications. Okay, and the fact we had a nurse with us at the time, and she was able to actually take a look at these medications and say, like, look, like, this isn't good. You need to go back to your doctor. So there was factor number one. Second factor was the fact that she had actually been spray painting crafts in her room with no ventilation. So she was actually inhaling a lot of toxic fumes in her room. And so that was piling on top of the fact that she's on all these medications that shouldn't have been together. To pile onto that issue, she had an old transformer that we discovered down in her basement attached to her electrical box. And this transformer was emitting so much electromagnetic energy, electromagnetic fields, that it flatlined our EMF meter. And like literally flatlined. It couldn't go higher. And EMF it's a funny thing, because in high dosages, and sometimes it's not even that high for a lot of people. Sometimes it can only be just, slight bits and pieces here and there. But people are sometimes more sensitive to it than others. They can cause the feeling of being watched. It can cause you to see shadows out of the corner of your eye. It can say all sorts of stuff. And so there was a myriad of problems that were going on with this case, none of which were paranormal. And it was one of those situations where it would have been really, really, really easy to take a step back from that and create a story about her dead son, about, all of these different things, and completely miss the problem, like overshoot it by a mile. So we have to be really careful that we're we're taking a look at every aspect of what's going on at case in order to come to these conclusions. And that's where, like, for myself, I can't do that alone. I can't do that by myself. I don't have the expertise to do that. I have to bring in people that are contracted that will assess what is going on. I'm not an electrician. I'm not a nurse. I'm not any of these things. I have to bring in people that know exactly what they're looking at in order to do that. So it's a myriad of problems when you get a case like this. But it's super important to not perpetuate, something that's going on like that. So the other thing that I really wanted to grab on, which I think is probably one of the most crucial things that I see with negative hauntings that doesn't work, and I see this over and over again, is that the investigators or the psychics or the whatever you're bringing in are not empowering the client. So this is like my number one, like, it makes me crazy. it makes me absolutely crazy, is that they don't empower the client. And what happens, and I wrote about this in the last issue, for those of you guys who got the last issue of Haunted Magazine, I wrote a little bit about this in my article about a psychic addiction, because what happens is that every time you put yourself forward as the solution, which you can't be, because the only person that can do the emotional work is that person. So you're not going to be the solution, you're going to be the compass. But what ends up happening is that when they put themselves forward as a solution, it disempowers the person in what's going on. They have to rely on somebody else to fix a problem that is not going to change until they change their emotional center. So this becomes a real issue. And when I see this over and over, it usually is with a lot of the psychics that are looking for money. They're looking for cash. And I mean, I'm sure there's some out there that are awesome, that are work differently, but this is where the area where I see it the most. And it's, if you pay me X amount of money, then I'm going to get rid of this entity from your house, or this problem that you have, or break a curse that you think has been asserted on you, or whatever it is. But the problem is that it makes that person very dependent on an outside source, and it guides them away from what's going on inside. I think Ian Van Zandt, the life coach and a spiritual teacher, I think said it best, is that pain means pay attention inward now. Pay attention inward now. And when we're not doing that, when we're sort of looking outside of that, then it kind of guides us away from the stuff that we need to be doing and need to be healing up. So, I mean, these people can be a great tool and whatnot, but if they're not turning around and teaching the client how to handle, how to deal with it, how to do, when they're not there, then you set yourself up for a big problem. You set yourself up for a big problem. So that's probably the number one that I see. The number one I see with these hauntings. It's kind of nuts. But all in all, I mean, some of these cases can be really harrowing. They can be frightening, and how we deal with them, how we piece this out is a major thing. I was talking to a friend yesterday, and she's a producer on some of the shows that I'm on, Haunted Hospitals and Paranormal 911. She used to do those all the time. And what she discovered something very interesting, and I thought I would share it with you guys because I think it's so prevalent. Because getting the stories and the cases for these shows is really hard for these producers, and it made her come to a realization that I think is profound, and that is, we often forget, because people like us, people here often, that come to spiritual healthcare and whatnot, we talk relatively freely about the paranormal. We really do. We're not in fear of losing our jobs. We're not in fear of being shunned. We're not in fear of, looking like we're crazy to an industry. We talk about it very freely. And what they discovered when they were pulling cases and getting cases for the show, and people being afraid of losing their jobs, being afraid of speaking out, being afraid of just not having a voice, having their voice taken, is that speaking of the paranormal is privilege. We really are privileged to be able to do that. Not everybody has that privilege to do that. And I mean, I am very grateful that I have a platform that I'm allowed to speak on this. But I thought that was really interesting. And I think with negative hauntings, I think we have to remember that as well, is that not everybody can have that voice. Not everybody will be able to speak on it, especially some cultures. They're not allowed. Not allowed. Not allowed. You don't talk about that. That's evil. You're cursed. Whatever it is. But it's privilege. So I think one of the things going into any sort of case with a negative entity, or any case where there has been trauma, it doesn't even have to be a negative entity, but chances are if there's trauma, it's a negative entity. But we have to remember that it's privilege. It really is privilege, and not everybody can speak it. So everyone's going to be at a different place with this. So that being said, I wanted to, and I announced it kind of at the beginning of the class, but I'll announce it again because there's new people. EntitySeeker.ca has had a massive facelift. massive facelift. And I encourage you guys to go head over after Spiritual Healthcare to check it out. All of the classes are still there. Everything is still there. There is just more. And there is a newsletter that you can sign up for, and everything is going to be going into the newsletter, including things like the classes, all sorts of stuff. So sign up for the newsletter because it's like brand new and it should have been there like probably 15 years ago. But anyway, it's there now. And I hope you guys really dig it. My partner and I, we were talking over the weekend about just moving towards more of the production side of everything. And we're hoping that this is going to give us more access to you guys. It's going to give me the ability to interact with you guys a little bit better, and keep turning out everything that we love to do, the shows, all of that. And the other thing is, tonight, if you are in Canada, the third episode of the third season of Haunted Hospitals will air tonight on TNE Network. So soon, and it's also airing in the UK on Really TV. Soon, Travel Channel will be airing it as well. We're still waiting on a date as to when the hell that's happening. We get told nothing. People are always asking me, when's the new season? I have no idea. No clue. No clue. I don't, we are told nothing. We're not told anything until we see the advertisement on our television, and usually it's one of you guys that see the advertisement before us. So, there it is. There it is. So anyway, but it's TNE tonight. So the brand new episode, which I'm stoked about. So I found a really, really great passage in Faith in the Valley by Jan Van Zandt that I wanted to leave you guys with, because I think it applies to what we've been talking about with spirits and that as well, not just the living people. And I wanted to read this to you guys because I think it is worth considering. So check this out. Does it seem that no matter how hard you try, you continue to attract the wrong people as your mate? And I say this can apply to the paranormal too. Perhaps it's because you've forgotten about law of attraction, which states what you draw to you is what you are. We continue to ask life to send us the right person, the person who will make us happy or whole. Under this request is the belief that we are unhappy or not whole. In response, the universe brings us the person and situations to increase what we believe we are. See how it works. When you focus on what you lack, you receive more of it. When you speak about what you don't want, you create it. The only way to attract and maintain a divine relationship is to be a divine mate. You must be all the things you seek in another person. You must nurture, support, embrace yourself, and you must enjoy your own company. And most of all, you must love yourself unconditionally. Before you can attract that perfect somebody, you must believe that you are the perfect you. Love it. Love it. I love it. I love it. But yeah, it's true. It, as I say, translates into paranormal occurrences and spiritual expression as well. Spiritual expression. That's it. So anyway, I want to leave you guys with our affirmations because they are so important as we go into our week. And yeah, so here we go, guys. Everybody, take a deep breath. I am a channel of peace and well-being, and my need for peace is abundantly met. I unconditionally accept, love, and appreciate myself and who I am. I recognize and am grateful for the abundance that is constantly flowing into my life, which I can choose to allow or not. I feel with every breath a sense of peace and love. I help others by maintaining and tending to my connection with Source as much as possible. This well-being is accessible to me even in a sea of uncertainty. And at this moment, all is well. I am able to liberate myself from my past and live with peace and serenity. I can see and appreciate all the beauty and abundance of the life around me. I am able to embrace love while letting go of fear. And I find peace with the soothing silence of my inner being. And everybody take a breath. Thank you guys for another really awesome morning of spiritual health care. We will be back here again next Wednesday for more. And I hope today was interesting, was fun. I love your questions. Please don't stop sending in questions, either on Facebook here or at entityseeker@gmail.com. Either way, I will eventually get to them. It takes me a while because there's lots of email, but eventually I will get to them. And hopefully soon we will also do another class with Galen, my little co-host, a wonderful little Python co-host, and whatnot. We'll do another class with him too. Of course, those are always evening classes because he only gets up in the evening. There's no way in hell he gets up for morning classes. There's like, he's 16 and a half years old. He's gonna be 17 in a few months, and he's a teenager. He doesn't get out of bed for nothing. So anyway, hopefully his little face will grace the will grace the screen again at some point. And I will see you guys next Wednesday. Again, the new entityseeker.ca is online, and it's awesome, and I hope you guys love it. Go and explore and have fun with it. There's some really great there's new photos, there's new interviews, there's new like all the things are there. So I hope you guys love it, and I will see you all next week. Spiritual healthcare, guys. Bye.